Welcome to First Down Sports, Canadian edition.
Hey.
All right. So as we get going here, my name is Ray Dunn, your host. Over here to my left is my co-host, Andy Jardine.
Yo, how are you?
Sitting in the back of the room is my little brother, Nick Dunn.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Nick.
Hi, Andy.
We've got to talk about our sponsors here real quick. So if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday night, make sure you go out and get yourself some Moose Light. This stuff is scary good.
Sunday especially.
Sunday,
Scary.
yeah. Sunday,
So scary.
scary good. And if you're a sports team, organization, school team,
A brewery.
and you need hats, shirts, pens, jackets, you name it, go see our buddies the Doyle's Corporate Image.
The Doyle's rule.
And lastly, if your kitchen sucks, and there's a good chance it probably does,
Probably.
you know, make sure you reach out to my little brother Nick's company, Done Right Sauce.
Yep. It will fix your kitchen real good.
Real
you guys
good.
have online ordering, Nick?
Yes, we do.
There you go.
Awesome.
So go to
Online
go to the
store. You can go on the website, order any flavor you want,
website. Anything you want.
Awesome.
Shipped directly to your house.
right to the front door.
Well, Andy, it's
Or
been
back door. Yeah.
it's been a crazy week of football here in the Maritimes.
Nutso.
Crazy week of football. We've got some high school football to talk about. We got some AUS football,
Yep.
which we've got quite a long discussion on the AUS. We might even get a phone call. We've got a call on hold right now. He may or may not call in. We're working on that right now.
If he doesn't, we'll get him next week.
We'll get him next week.
He's busy. He's pretty busy this week.
He's pretty busy. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up with the Eastern and Western CFL finals coming up this weekend.
Also exciting.
All right. But before we do any of that, let's stick with local. For those people, we last week we made an appearance on buzzlocal.tv where we talked some local football. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
We just had our second episode with them tonight, and we did again. We talked a little bit of football. On there, you get to hear the kind of brief story about what goes on. And here at First Down Sports Podcast, we're going to get into more. We're going to dig a little bit. We're going to dig deep on these subjects.
Oh, yeah. The
right?
gloves come off.
The gloves come off. We don't hold anything back here.
Right. We just don't swear because my mom watches the show.
Yes, exactly. No swearing around
But
Andy's
those
mom.
gloves are coming off.
Yeah.
I swear.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about the provincial final. So, Nick, last Saturday, the provincial final was held in Sackville. Now, originally, it was scheduled to be at the high school at 1 o'clock on Saturday. But because of the size of the expected crowd, they moved this game over to Mount A at the university.
Wow.
And they bumped the game to 2 o'clock. I wasn't aware of that. Jeannie and I showed up at the high school. There was nobody there. So we drove over to Mount A and saw they were setting up for the football game. We got in at 12:30 thinking the game was starting in a half hour. There was nobody there.
Sat there for an hour and a half.
And we sat in the what's it called? The student bar, the Pond?
Yeah, maybe it is. Like it
Yeah,
used to be called the Pub, and when I went to their first game and walked through campus, the pub is not there anymore. It's like a fine arts building now.
Yeah, it's called the Pond, and the Pond overlooks the field. Like it's a beautiful, like the way they've built that. The way they built the bar and that lounge they have for the students and overlooking the field, it's just such a nice spot to go watch a football game. I can't tell you.
Yeah. I think you can get premium seating too, where you can sit outside on a little patio they have set up there,
Yeah.
and then you have like instant just walk inside access to this bar or whatever. But it's pretty nice.
I'm telling you right now, Jeannie ended up watching the entire game from inside, and we were dressed, for a cold day because the wind coming off the marsh that day, it was cold in Sackville and windy. And Jeannie, I'm going to guess I'm going to go with at least 6 layers. And
That's a lot of layers, yeah.
she stripped down in the lounge down to just her Under Armour. So she was walking around like Smurfette with the blonde hair and just the blue leggings and the blue Under Armour top. So
There you go.
such a great spot. Now I ventured around the field. I used my referee pass where I could walk right on the field along with the officials.
He was flashing the ref card.
Yeah, I was using it.
We don't know what it looks like, but he was flashing the ref card.
Great crowd, Nick. There was about 4,000 to 5,000 people there, and I'm leaning more on the 5,000. It was funny. They were selling 50-50 tickets at the door, and around the mid of the first quarter, they announced that the 50-50 tickets were sold out. You could... But they didn't have enough 50-50 tickets for the crowd. For the crowd, they were, and it's not like when you go to the hockey games now, everything's electronic, right?
Yeah.
They still have the rolls that you get from the dollar store,
and they ran out of the dollar store rolls.
They ran out.
Should have just started writing things on loose leaf.
The biggest thing I want to tell you about this game is, again, it was cold day, and number two is. I mentioned already the wind coming in off the marsh, and at the university it was coming in from the commons, blowing against the scoreboard, and the wind was so strong that day, Nick. It was such a huge factor in this game. All the points that were scored in this game was with the wind, not against the wind. There was no points scored against the wind.
Probably couldn't even throw the ball against the wind.
Neither team could throw the ball against the wind.
And I bet when you had to punt against the wind, those were some beast punts, right?
I'll tell you about a shank punt.
10 yards.
There was a really big shank punt in this game for sure. Both teams came out prepared, and I mean, this game to start was a complete defensive game. Moncton High came out. We talked about the fact they had to hold Sackville. Sackville couldn't put 300 yards up on the board, or this game was over.
Yeah.
And they did that. The Moncton defense, I cannot say enough for this defense. They came out and they played hard. And the first quarter was all about field position. And late in the first quarter, with 4:44 to go in the first quarter, Moncton was pinned deep in their end zone, near their end zone. And on third down, rather than punt the ball, the quarterback, Chris Cameron Cogler, backed into the end zone, took a knee to give up 2 points rather than kicking the ball into the wind, which wouldn't have gone very far,
right,
and set Tantramar up for a touchdown.
They'd practically be in the red zone instantaneously.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's how the scoring opened up in this game. It was 2-0 for Tantramar. Now here's where they didn't plan for this. So again, they're kicking off now. The safety, the ball comes out to the 35-yard line. They kick the ball. It goes about 25, 30 yards tops.
Yeah.
The ball's returned to the 55-yard line. And on that play with 4:10 in the first quarter, Justin Vogels throws a pass from the 55-yard line downfield to number 2, Lucas Cormier, for a touchdown, giving Tantramar a 9-0 lead.
Yep. 9-0 at half. I mean, that's a victory for the defense, really, because we were thinking, Tantramar could run the score up real fast and then just pound the ball and control the clock for the rest of the game. 9's not bad.
It's not bad, but I'll tell you, that wind really played a factor. Now, this is throughout the game, not in the first half, but just to give you an idea of how much... Cogler was throwing the ball really well for Moncton High, but when he was throwing the ball into the wind, it was a real struggle. He gave up 3 interceptions in the game. All those interceptions were caught by number 9, Jeff Lafford.
Yep.
Right. He plays kind of a safety linebacker, so you can just imagine he was watching the quarterback's eyes all day. At the end of the second half, or at the end of the second quarter, I was a little surprised by Moncton. So they're down 9-0. Their defense is playing fantastic. They've got the wind at their back. Sackville's not moving the ball. And twice, I can tell you for sure, they were at the 30-yard line. And rather than try to kick a field goal on third down, they punted the ball. And they punted the ball, maybe hoping for a ruse, or maybe they We're hoping to keep them pinned down deep, right? But no, they couldn't put any points on the board, so they accomplished that. But being down 9-0, it was the only time during the game I said to myself, if I was the coaching staff here, I'd want to try to put some points on the board. When you got the wind at your back, you got to put something on the board.
Yeah, I mean, kicking a field goal from the 30 for a high school player is probably not automatic, even if the wind is with you. So I get that. And this is the part of Canadian football I'm still trying to adjust to. Is, you know, if you're gonna try to kick the Rouge, right? They must have wanted to pin them deep close to the end zone, because if you wanted to kick the Rouge there, you'd bring the field goal unit out and you'd let the guy just put as much leg into it as he possibly could. If it went through the uprights, bonus. But otherwise, it's not coming out. So they must have been trying to do that.
They must have been pinning them back and playing field position.
Now, did any of those balls go in for a touchback, or did they manage to pin them?
They did. So that's exactly what they're doing. But I was surprised by that decision making when you've got the wind at your back. Down 9-0.
Go for it. Yeah.
So that's how the first half ended, and Tantramar walked into halftime with a 9-0 lead. And coming out in the third quarter, Moncton High had the wind at their back again in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And number 34, Kyle Lewis, at 9:50 in the quarter, runs the ball from the 40-yard line after a poor punt into the wind. So we talked about not being able to kick into this wind. This ball was a complete shank off. I believe it was number 2 from Tantramar. He shanked the ball out of bounds, and now they've got the ball around the 40-yard line, and this Kyle Lewis finally finds a hole and goes 40 yards for a touchdown for Moncton.
Nice.
Now the game's 9-7.
There it is. Back in the game.
And then shortly after that, Lewis gets the ball again, runs a sweep to the left side of his line, and takes it to the house for his second touchdown of the game. All of a sudden, Moncton's up in this game 14-9. The place is going absolutely crazy.
I think this is when I messaged you. I was getting some work done in the house or whatever, and then I came inside and I checked the score, and I think that's when I messaged you. I was like, Moncton's up in this game?
Yeah.
What?
And what was interesting to me when I was there watching as a fan in this game, I was thinking about that Riverview game where they played at Mount Allison, where, you know, Tantramar put up a whole bunch of points. They put up 22 points in the first half, and they didn't score at all in the second half. Or I think they might have scored a touchdown at the end, but they didn't score much in the second half. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if we've got a similar ball game going on. Yeah, maybe Mount A is not where these guys should have been playing this game. But so that was 14-9. Now we go to the fourth quarter, and Tantramar's got the wind at their back, and Owen O'Neill, number 20, catches the ball and takes it into the end zone for a touchdown.
Double O.
Tantramar then lines up and goes for 2.
Yep.
They convert on the 2, and now the score is 17-14. And that's where things, you know, again, there's another interception. That's where the third interception came up for Cogler on that drive.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you this run. I was standing in the end zone watching the play come at me, and number 10, Jack Estabrooks from Tantramar, had a run, and the agility he showed coming down the sideline, he must have out-deked at least 4 or 5 defenders to make himself into the end zone. He hurdled the guy to get into the end zone.
Wow.
That was kind of the nail in the casket. And Tantramar Titans win this provincial championship 24-14.
Yeah. Well, Moncton, you made it a game, and we were questioning whether you could or not. A huge effort by the defense from the sounds of it. You know, nothing to hang your heads at. Offense as well. You came out in the second half just blazing, and the wind was just a lot to deal with. So, pretty good final, I think. And Tantramar continues their reign of just domination.
Domination.
Yep.
That's 3 in a row for the Tantramar Titans under head coach Scott O'Neill. And everybody wants to know what the secret of success is for Scott O'Neill. What does he, there's been so many questions as far as what kind of coach is he? What's he doing, down in Sackville? Their team is too aggressive, they're dirty, all these different things that have been stated by parents that really don't know much about this sport. But this guy knows how to coach a high school team, the details that you need to coach high school kids, which are tougher to coach than university or pros because their attention, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to diminish it by any stretch, but I mean, these kids are drinking the marsh water or something.
There's something.
The talent pool that they have in Sackville, you wouldn't think would be what it is with the population of that town and so on. I mean, the population when we're not counting the students at Mount A. But when you if you go and you look at some tape of them playing, Odyssey or Benice McNaughton or something, like, these kids are huge compared to they're.
And I've said it before, Andy. I don't know if you were on when I talked about this. Is I have said a couple of times that Sackville is the biggest, smallest football town in the country.
Yeah,
in the country.
Looks like it. Yeah.
And next week, Nick, I don't know if you know this, but head coach Scott O'Neill is going to join us on First Down Sports.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice.
So we're going to be talking to the man that can take a team to 3-0, something that not even Bill Belichick can do.
Okay.
All right.
Now this is it for them, right? Like, they don't get to go on to some national stage or anything.
No, I really wish there was and we can talk about this with Scott next week, but I always wish there was an Atlantic championship between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, or
Well, that'd be cool, because this team is just dominant, and they need some, and I'm not trying to diminish the competition they play, but they need a real challenge. It'd be pretty cool for them to go.
I think it'd be great. I think it'd be great. So that is your high school review of the 12-man provincial final. Once again, congratulations to Scott O'Neill and those Tantramar Titans.
I don't want to put you on the spot because I don't know either, but do we know who won the 10-man?
We do know who won the 10-man. So
Kennebecasis Valley?
Kennebecasis Valley was going in to play against St. Malachy's.
St. Malachy's or Malachy's.
We're still trying to figure that out. Whatever it is.
Yep.
And they were the underdog heading into this game.
Yeah.
They walked out with a win.
Nice. All right. Congrats, guys.
There's a coach of the St. Malachy's. His first name is Travis. I can't think of his last name. He had some very choice words for the officials. Not the officials. Each official at the end of the game. And I also was told that he took his time to go over and let the officials that were doing the sticks for the game what he thought of them too. So yeah, he was obviously not overly happy at the end of the game, which most losing coaches aren't that happy. But that was the first time I'd seen something like that.
You have to respect the fire. Hey, Miramichi Valley, you need a coach? Let's talk to this guy.
Yeah,
you have to blame someone.
Yeah,
there you go.
Blame the sticks.
All right, so we haven't heard yet at this point from our possible special guest. So
we'll hit him next week.
We're going to keep moving along here, and if something happens where he does become available, then we can switch over to that call. On the video, for those of you that are watching on video versus the podcast, you won't be able to see him because he's not in studio. I'm sure there's a way that we could probably get him to Skype in.
Yeah, we'll figure it out at some point.
But at some point, we'll figure that out. But
as of now, he's not even available.
As of right now, we can just keep moving. Let's get into this Loney Bowl, because the Loney Bowl...
Ooh, the Loney Bowl, pretty much.
Andy, I'm going to let you take the driver's seat right now. Tell us about this Loney Bowl.
What a mess this was. So let's get into the controversy around the game, and then we'll talk about the game, which was spectacular, Nick. I don't know if you got to see any of it, but all right, controversy around the game. We've been talking about it for weeks. So St. Mary's possibly fielding ineligible players, right? St. Mary's, for all intents and purposes, were undefeated this year. Now, they forfeited a victory early in the season because they were, in fact, punished for playing a player that was ineligible. We don't know right now who that player was.
I do.
You do.
I learned this yesterday. What I can confirm for you
Is it
the week 1 loss or the week 1 game that was reversed. It was not Achilles Jack. He was not the player in question.
Okay.
For that turnaround.
Well, that makes sense to me. Okay, so that's good, right? Because this story is getting covered nationally. It's all over the place. The 2-0 podcast, which we talk about from time to time, some CFL. It's a CFL podcast. A couple of guys from Western Canada. They talked about it. Nothing but negative things to say. Say it's an absolute embarrassment, garbage, all this stuff. I agree with them, but here's the thing: we don't know who it really should be embarrassing for just yet. I mean, there's a lot involved in this, and I don't think anybody did a great job. And let me explain. So anyways, they got docked a win because of some player that is not the player that's in question now. So Achilles Jack, the best receiver by far in the AUS, absolutely ran away with the receiving the title, I guess if you want to call it, for the league. Played for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now, he was on their practice squad. We don't know if he's ever been active for them. We could look at, I don't think it matters at this point, but he was on the practice squad. And he was released on October 12th of last year. Now, there's a rule, and here's where it gets weird, is I've yet to actually be able to find this rule and how it's worded. But, Ray, this is the part that you might find interesting is, so the moment, I think it was the 9th of this month, October 9th, St. FX, Mount A, and Acadia all got together and they filed a complaint to U Sports. Now, U Sports is the larger organization for university sports, and they're in charge of player eligibility issues. So they're the ones that have to rule on these things. So these 3 universities in the AUS, they filed a complaint saying, we want you to look into the eligibility of Achilles Jack, the guy who played for the Rough Riders. Okay? They did this on the 9th. So right away, I actually posted this the Moncton Mustangs Facebook when they were sharing this. I said, we're giving a lot of people flack for how this is going down, but why would you wait till the 9th? I mean, there's no time to do anything. But anyways, that's what happens. Now, this takes place in immediately St. Mary's. The AUS steps in and says, all right, there's quite like our credibility, this league, it's important to us, we're canceling the game. St. Mary's immediately goes to Toronto to talk to U Sports and files and is granted an injunction or whatever from the courts that says, no, we're fine. Now, this is the part. I want to read this to you because this is the part I don't understand yet, and I want to know what this is. So, SMU says that there are no eligibility issues here. So, Margaret Murphy, who's the university's associate vice president, and I'm getting this from a CBC article, by the way. She's the vice president of external affairs. She says that the university reached a written and binding agreement with U Sports on October 27th that said that there weren't any player eligibility issues. So that written agreement between St. Mary's and U Sports is what they cited when they went to court and says, no, we're fine. And that's what the Toronto courts used to grant the injunction. Says, yeah, you guys are fine, you can play. AUS stepped in and said, I don't care what written agreement you guys have between you. We're not playing this game because we're not letting somebody play for our championship that doesn't deserve to be there. And that's when it ended up going to the courts in Nova Scotia. They reviewed all of this stuff, and this magical written agreement between St. Mary's and U Sports that says that there's no issue stood up, and they said, no, you got to play the game. You got to play the game on Tuesday, which you officiated in, and we're going to get to the game soon. You had to take the day off work to go officiate because it didn't happen when it was supposed to. So I guess what it comes down to is, and I think I said October 8th or 9th earlier, but it was November. It was in November when the other university said they wanted this looked into.
Right.
U Sports couldn't get it investigated in time, and there was this written agreement that we don't know about where it's almost like St. Mary said, hey, this is going to get questioned. We got this player. He was on the practice squad. And this is where, where my wife, who's a lawyer, kind of came in. She read some of the stories, and she said it looks like St. Mary's read the rule, and they interpreted that rule. So the language is not spot on. They interpreted the rule to say Achilles Jack can play, and decided to take that chance. And I think what they did was they reached out to U Sports and said, look, hey, this is getting questioned. this is our interpretation of the rule. We think this kid can play. What do you think? Let's hammer this out. And they came to a written agreement. So I think all in all, that's what happened. So I think, I hate that St. Mary's is getting like the worst, the bad rap here automatically. We don't know.
No, we don't know. But I think the biggest question in all of this, Andy, is from a legal perspective, is who has the right to decide on player eligibility issues?
Right.
Is it the conference?
Yeah.
Or is it U Sports? Because U Sports is the parenting body that's looking over all the conferences.
Yep.
And this is, from what I've been told, this is a conference. This is a conference decision making. This is something that should be decided within each conference. Should have their own rules around eligibility.
So officially, the answer is it's U Sports. U Sports has the say on eligibility issues, but the AUS has a say about everything that happens under their umbrella. And the AUS said, we don't know what written agreement you guys are talking about. We don't know what it was based on. We don't know anything. We just know that 3 universities that are in the AUS have all filed a complaint at the same time. There's some pretty no-brainer evidence out there on Twitter. It's the social media years now, that shows that this guy was on a team less than 365 days ago. Therefore, there's too much at question here. This looks too bad. There is a rule, which the AUS cited, that says if the game cannot be played, then the championship is given to the team, like the team with the best record or something. They basically said this rule that's in our rule book says that in a situation like this, that Acadia is granted the championship and they can move on, and that's what they did. So your question, it is U Sports, but I think this incident is going to change that.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, these guys, the craziest thing about this whole weekend, Nick, is the judge. This went to Supreme Court in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And on all day Saturday, from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock Saturday night, this was in court. And then they reconvened at 10:30 on Sunday morning. And at 6 o'clock our time, the judge decided that this game was going to be played and the schools had to play it by the latest Tuesday.
Yeah, and they even said if Acadia is not ready and can't host it, then it'll be hosted by SMU.
Right.
Yeah.
So the judge ordered this game to be played. So when it was announced that it was Tuesday at 2 o'clock, well, we started scrambling. I mean, as the officials. Now, I speak from Ray Dunn, not from AUS official panel or the NBFOA, which is the New Brunswick's official association. But I received a phone call saying, hey, are you still able to go? And when I got that call, I wasn't 100% sure. I'm busy. This podcast is not my only life. My job keeps me pretty busy, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to go, but I pulled some strings, made it happen, cleared up my schedule so I could go. And so we left yesterday morning at 7:45. I got home last night at midnight, and it's a long day. It's a long. Yeah, I mean, that's the trip you want to make on a Saturday. Getting up on a Sunday, and this is why I'm not like, I get the invites from my brothers all the time to come over to the games and stuff. Well, if we were coming home on a Saturday, I can tell you we wouldn't have been home at midnight. It would have been 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
It would have been a little party.
That's why I don't do much on Sunday afternoons. So when you have to go, when you have it in the middle of the week, it wasn't the best for me selfishly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let me put a little bow on this legal thing. So there's supposed to be a ruling as of today that whether SMU, whether that player was eligible or not, and whether they would be punished or not. As of now, Canada and CBC doesn't exactly have the fastest breaking news situation. As of now, there's no word. So let's just move on to the game, because you know what? The game did end up happening. And what a game.
What a game.
What a game. And Nick, I don't know if you know this, but these games, you can watch them. You can stream them live. You just go to the AUS website, and you can click the little watch button right next to these games, and you can watch them real time or after the fact. It's through Bell Fiber TV or something, and they got these local PA announcers and stuff, and it's really fun to watch. And I was absolutely glued to my laptop watching this. I knew you were in the game, so I was watching for how you were doing, seeing if you threw any stupid flags or anything. And whoa, what a game.
What a game.
It was worth it.
I got to tell you, as an official heading to this game, it was the first game in a long time that I had butterflies for. I mean, you get excited, but I was generally, when I was waking up Tuesday morning, I was excited to get going. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't wait to get moving. And the national press, the local press, there was so many different outlets. Yeah. I mean, Global had a truck there. CTV had a truck there. And I'm like, I've never seen this before. For like, even my Mitchell Bowl last year didn't get the coverage that this game got. And I doubt the Vanier Cup this year is going to get the coverage that this game got.
Yeah.
So it was really special. It felt like a big game. The stands were packed. There wasn't an empty seat. And I'm telling you, at kickoff, it was 3 degrees, felt like probably -2, -3. And there was a wind coming off the Fundy Bay. And I'm telling you, it was freezing.
So I'll let you get into some of the game experience. But Nick, I'll tell you, the wind, this game, when you were going against the wind, you were running the ball and you were punting, and it was going nowhere. There was no scoring against the wind, and it really factored into the game. But so there was an interception early in the game where the Acadia, Cody Cluett, the Acadia quarterback, he tries to throw the ball over the middle, and you see the ball take off and just dive. Like, just the wind just absolutely took it, gets intercepted. So I'm like, wow, the wind's really bad. But when I really figured out how bad the wind was, is their next possession, the referee placed the ball on the line of scrimmage while they were still huddling. And before they got a chance to break the huddle, the ball actually traveled 15 yards and met them at the huddle. The wind blew the ball all the way back. So the ref had to come in and place the ball again. So right away, I'm like, this is serious business.
All right, so you want to hear something funny about that?
Yeah.
The umpire is the one that spots the ball.
Yeah.
Years ago, he had been given a tip. And now this official's been reffing football for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay? But
Chris is calling.
Oh.
You talk to him. We're going to leave this in the show. Keep telling the story. Keep telling the story. Yep.
Hey.
All right.
We got Chris on the phone here, folks.
Chris Dunn's calling the show and interrupting.
We're just on the Canadian show. So.
Yeah.
And we're recording.
That's why I declined your phone call.
Yeah. Chris, we're recording a show here.
Yeah.
This is it.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
I'm sure that was super important. Anyway,
so this is just funny.
Long-time referee got a tip.
Long-time referee. He put the ball down, and the guy that gave him the tip years ago said, "Fowler, don't you remember my tip for the ball?" And so what you do is you put the laces down and put the ball in the direction of the wind. So that way the laces hit.
Yeah.
And then we never had that problem the rest of the night.
Never had that problem again. Anyway, what
funny little ref story.
Absolute back and forth game. Every time, both quarterbacks, especially the SMU quarterback, Caleb Scott, man, he could chuck the ball with the wind. He was making 40-yard gains.
Yeah.
And it was back and forth. A lot of turnovers. Not just based on the win. I think Caleb Scott got a little trigger happy after a while and figured, you know what, we have to go for it every possession. Yeah. Like, we're going for long gains every possession, if not whatever. And there was a lot of interceptions, turnovers. It was so back and forth. And I don't know if you want to get into more detail on the drives here, Ray, but there you go. Look at these. The good thing the Doyles provide us with so many pens, because I break one a week.
Mm-hmm. Doyles?
Is it Doyles? Doyle?
Read them.
Well, I know, but didn't they make these for you?
Yeah, they made them.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, done right Buffalo sauce pens.
I don't think
if you're a sports organization, a team, or a sauce company, and you need hat shirts or pens, call the Doyles, then make this shitty pen.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but you know what? Maybe the Doyles didn't make this pen. Maybe they
Look
went
at 'em.
somewhere else and
I know they're done. They're done.
I don't think they did. We got them on
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. You
Well,
need to
maybe
get
it's
them
time
at
to-
Doyle's.
Yeah.
Time to call Doyle's. Anyway,
Doyle's.
so I don't know if
Help
you
us
want to
out.
get into any more.
Yeah, so let me just talk about some game stats here. So you talked about Caleb Scott. I mean, this kid put up 443 yards last night.
Yeah.
He threw for a touchdown, and he threw 4 interceptions. And the biggest thing I can tell you on field from watching this kid, because this kid isn't exciting. He also ran the ball for 70 yards and ran it for a touchdown. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing about this kid is he's got the size, he's got the arm. The problem is with him is he wants everything in one play.
Yep.
In Canadian football, you got a huge field, you got 3 downs. You've got to take it in chunks.
Like Acadia did.
Like Acadia did, right?
Yeah.
Cody Kluwitz running the ball for 5 yards, picking up 4 yards. And
quarterback sneak
then quarterback
on
sneak for third down.
Yeah.
You've got to get it in chunks. You can't come out. You don't have 4 downs. You don't have that play like in American football where you can chuck the ball down 70 yards, and if you miss it, you got 2 other downs to get it before you have to punt.
Yeah.
Canadian football, you've got to play smart, and that's the biggest thing I could tell you from the sidelines last night, and even down by the coaching staff. He was taking too many shots downfield and leaving them 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10, and that's the problem he put himself into last night.
That's what the broadcast looked like too. Like he was dead set even before he broke the huddle that he was going to this one receiver, and it worked for him a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But he was just trying to do too much. That ended up killing them throughout the game, and ultimately what got them in overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk some Acadia stats here real quick. Dale Wright, who is the most outstanding player for the AUS this year, he is a phenomenal running back with Acadia. We've been talking about his stats all year and how great this kid is. He had 9 touches last night for 54 yards. And then guess what, Nick? On his last run, he went up the middle. Somebody rolled on his leg. Out of the game.
Yeah.
Out of the game. It was so sad. I didn't know, like anytime you see, and he walked right by me coming off the field, and so he was in a lot of pain coming off the field. They then bring in Cameron Davidson.
And this is a good story.
To run the ball. This kid touches the ball 22 times and takes the ball for 152 yards and picked up the yardage that they needed from their running game, because this team relies on the run.
Yeah.
Cody Kluwit did what Cody Kluwit does. He put up the ball for 292 yards last night. He had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, the second interception that he threw, Andy mentioned this to me. He was throwing against the wind and was literally just trying to get the ball out of bounds. And the wind held that ball up, and it was a complete duck, and it got picked off.
It was an easy pick.
Yeah. Easy
Actually, no. That was the first interception.
Okay.
His second interception was with the wind.
With the wind.
Okay, it was with the wind, but it didn't matter. So it was a really bad decision. Probably easily his worst one of the game. So he took the snap, and the offensive line, their protection was all off, and there was a linebacker running free right at him, and I think he caught his slot back or a receiver out of the corner of his eye and thought, I can get it to that guy. Watching the replay, that guy was covered, and he just did that whole heave it up in the air as he's getting absolutely blown up, and the ball just sailed up in the air. Everybody could just kind of look at it, and it just landed in someone's hands. But that was actually with the wind.
Yeah, I know
So
where
it
you're
was
talking. That was on the far side of the field. It wasn't on my sideline.
That was the second pick. The first pick was like early in the game, and he just tried to throw it over the middle, and the ball just dove into a linebacker that he was going to throw the ball 10 feet over his head.
Yeah.
And it just came right down. But anyways, yeah, sort of.
So, to move on in this game, I'll tell you this. We had a former guest on this show, the guest that may be calling in here in the next few minutes. We're not sure. He's in physio right now. I just heard from him a few minutes ago.
Listen, the kid's busy. We'll get him next week.
We'll get him. But here's the thing. This kid intercepted one ball on my sideline earlier in the game, intercepted around the 38-yard line, and brought it back to midfield to help set his offense up for a touchdown. And then on the last play, so this game's tied. Caleb Scott, at the end of the fourth quarter, drives his team the full length of the field and rushes the ball in himself to score a touchdown, makes it 35-35. It goes to overtime. Then in overtime, both teams kick a field goal in the first series.
Yep.
Heading into the second series, I'll tell you, what an effort by Acadia. So Acadia, in overtime, the ball goes back to the 35-yard line. They both teams get a shot with the ball, and they've got the wind at their back on this drive. Well, all in overtime they did. And anyways, Acadia gets the ball first. And we talk about 4 yards, 5 yards, and they were going for it on 3rd and 1 twice on that drive. They did it,
Yep.
and they get down, they score a touchdown.
Yep.
On the touchdown, something happened on the field. A flag was thrown against St. Mary's, and we had to march the ball from the 35 to the 45 where St. Mary's got the ball.
Yep.
Caleb Scott, again, this kid is relentless. Gets his, they end up getting downfield. He's around the 10-yard line, I believe, when his final pass of the game is. Throws a pass. The receiver hits the receiver's hands. The ball goes up in the air, and it's intercepted by Rory Kelly of the Acadia X-Men and brought back out. He drops to his knees.
Come into the end zone, drops to his knees.
Game's over. That's game. Fireworks are rolling. I mean, you should have seen the fireworks. I mean, people are running onto the field. It was incredible. And it's funny, our referee kept saying, come on, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. And I kept saying, just give us a second now. Just give us a second. This is a championship game. Let me soak this in for a second. And I'm watching the fireworks, and, we're having a great time. And then we finally said, all right, it's time. Let's go.
And my favorite story for this at the end is what was the backup running back's name again?
Cameron Davidson.
So Cameron Davidson's this little scrappy kid, and I'm listening to the announcers on the feed, and the PA guy that talks over the entire stadium is Mr. Davidson, I believe. So what I find out is this little backup running back that comes in, this little chippy guy, he's a local kid from Wolfville or from that particular area. And the PA guy who gets to announce him as the game's most outstanding player was his dad.
Oh, wow.
And absolute shocker that this kid wins most outstanding player. It was probably, if Dale Wright didn't get hurt, he probably wouldn't even have had more than a carry or two.
Yeah.
Comes in, carries the team, wins most outstanding player, and it's his dad that gets to announce it. And it was pretty,
awesome
and it was pretty cool. Yeah. So
big shout out to my officiating crew because we really did have a great game. I mean, Smew might tell you a couple things, and even the Acadia bench, but we had a great game. Our head referee was Allison Gates. I'm going to tell you a story about him in a second. Myself, umpire Jim Fowler. John Peters was the field judge. Grant McKenzie and Vince Williams were down deep, and me and Patrick Fairweather were manning the line of scrimmage. And our downs box for this game was the legend Barry DeBay.
Well, I got a question for you. Who's 66?
That is Grant McKenzie.
Grant McKenzie, who was on the sideline opposite Ray at the same end of the field. The only call that I thought was interesting, gutsy. I think I called it ballsy. He called a pass interference call, a long throw, which set the team up pretty much on the 10-yard line or something like that. From the broadcast, it didn't look too clear. It almost looked like they just got their feet tangled. He chucked that flag like it was the biggest no-brainer. Now, granted, the announcers on the TV who were doing the broadcast also thought it was a total no-brainer. But for me, I was like, whoa, what a call in a big spot. And that flag, he had, the ball was in the air. He had that flag ready to go. So wow. I thought that was a ballsy call by 66. Well, the rest of it, there was nothing questionable at all, I didn't think. Yeah.
Well, out of all this crew, our original referee, Greg McLean, who's a phenomenal referee, he was unable to make it because of work.
Yeah.
And so Allison Gates substituted in. Al is the only official that's actually working the UTEC Bowl as the referee this weekend coming up.
Yep.
And there was 3 referees just nominated to go to the International Bowl in Dallas, Texas, taking place in January. And Allison Gates is representing Canada heading down to that event. So
Awesome.
Good for Gator. And I tell you what, Gator, because you're a listener of the podcast, we're going to look after you. We are going to give you a First Down Sports hat that you can wear to Dallas, and we're going to set you up with some done right sauce as well.
Awesome. Well, listen, Nick's on the phone again here. I think Chris is calling again. But let me ask you this, Ray. So congratulations again, Loney Bowl winners. Good luck, Acadia, facing off against Western in the next game on short rest. I don't think a lot of people are giving them much of a hope here, but you know what? You won the big game. I called the Loney Bowl, I think I was calling it like a day before. I said, Acadia wins this, and they make this whole controversy as right as possible. It was the best available ending. The team that deserved to be there unquestionably won the game. So good on them, and best of luck on your next game. And do we have much time for CFL?
we don't have a lot of time for CFL right now. Let's just break down the scores real quick.
Yeah.
Break down the scores real quick of last week's games, and let's just talk about the finals real quick.
Easy enough, yeah. So last week in the Eastern semifinal, the Riders crossed over into the East to play against Ottawa. The Riders actually have been sort of road warriors. They Ottawa and to Toronto, both during the regular season, and came out with wins. So anyway, they traveled into Ottawa, and they handed it to Ottawa. I mean, they didn't completely run away with it, but even the score 31-20 seems a little closer than it was. The Red Blacks defense is just terrible. Yeah. And like Kevin Glenn, the quarterback for the Riders, he was benched this year for Brandon Bridge a couple of times. Like, he was near flawless in this game. Trevor Harris's first playoff start didn't really work out the way they hoped, but good season, Ottawa. You weathered some injuries, but the Riders really came in. They deserved to win this game.
Yeah, they played dominant football, and
yeah,
there was a couple injuries in this game for the Red Blacks as well, which didn't help.
Yeah,
but Rough Riders definitely had their number in this game.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And you know what? The Red Blacks, if there's anything they need to address in the offense, they need to fix their defense.
Yeah,
and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then the Western semi was Edmonton, probably one of the hottest teams in the league. The Edmonton Eskimos traveled to Winnipeg and won the game 39-32.
They were playing the game at Investors Group Stadium.
At Investors Groups. Oh, there we go. There might be somebody here who works for them. That is not me. But anyways, yeah. I didn't get to see a lot of that particular game, but I know Mike Riley, the quarterback for Edmonton, is red hot. He passed for 334 yards. And my favorite CFL running back, CJ Gable, who was moved from Hamilton for contractual reasons or whatever. Anyway, tore it up for Edmonton. He had 107 yards on 16 carries, 2 touchdowns. He will be on my DraftKings lineup.
Well, I'll tell you right now. So let's get into the Western final right now. Calgary versus Edmonton.
The Battle of Alberta CFL edition.
When you look at Calgary, I mean, Bo Levi Mitchell, he's had 63.9% passing completion this year, 4,700 yards, 23 touchdowns. Calgary has played good, consistent football this year. Yeah. Edmonton's been up and down like a train, but when they were up, nobody was touching them.
Yeah.
And right now, the way Edmonton's playing right now, Mike Riley has put up 5,830 yards, 30 touchdowns this year, and now with CJ Gable on their roster, and they've got a wide receiver, Brandon Zylstra.
Yeah, he's probably the best receiver in the league. Yeah,
1,600 yards, 5 touchdowns for him. I think Edmonton's going to go in and knock off Calgary in this Western Final.
I'm with you, too. I think Calgary lost their last 3 games. They didn't play their starters for the last one, but they lost 2 before that. They really relaxed. Like, they had that top seed locked up way too soon, and they just really relaxed, and they have no momentum coming in, and they had a bye week. And there's no team hotter in the CFL right now than Edmonton. And I think this is going to blow up in their face. I don't think Calgary's ready for this. And I too...
Edmonton's been playing playoff football now for the last 5 weeks.
I, too, am calling the Edmonton Eskimos going to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, I think so. Now, I feel bad because last year I was at the Western Final in Calgary against BC, and I loved the stadium. I loved the people.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, and I said this last year on my podcast, I think that was one of the best football games from a fan experience I'd ever been to.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video of the guy sitting in front of you or something.
Yeah, so that's the Western Final. Let's talk about the Eastern Final. We got Saskatchewan at the Argos. What do you think here?
Like I said, Road Warriors, they traveled to both Ottawa and Toronto during the regular season, beat them both. And just beat Ottawa. Can they do it again? I'm going to go no. I think Toronto is the second hottest team next to Edmonton right now in the league. Ricky Ray, I think I had a stat last week. He was either 0 for 9 or 0 for 11 in most outstanding player. I think this is the year he gets it. I think Ricky Ray and the Argos are going to be just a little too much for Saskatchewan, who's on this super long road trip. So I'm calling the Argos to move on to the Grey Cup to face the Edmonton Eskimos, and I think it's going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah, Ricky Ray, 71% pass complete, 28 touchdowns this year. S.J. Green, 10 touchdowns for 1,400 yards rushing. And I love James Wilder Jr.
Oh, yeah.
He brings all kinds. He had 17 touchdowns this year, both in rushing and receiving. This guy is exciting, and I think Toronto wins this game. I'm not a huge Kevin Glenn fan. He is starting. I'm not sold that he can win. Brandon Bridge, I mean, I know he's young. His stats are pretty similar to Kevin Glenn's when you look at it.
Yeah.
Passing completion as far, but Mark Trestman, he has proven he can win in this league.
Absolutely.
He's doing it again. Their defense is actually playing great. They got a couple guys, Bear Woods.
Bear Woods, who was released by Montreal, and that was a big thing.
If I'm a defensive coordinator, I want a guy named Bear Woods on my team.
Bear Woods.
Marcus Ball, and then Victor Butler has had 10 QB sacks this year for Toronto, so he'll be looking to get as much pressure on Glenn, which Glenn can't move around like he once did. So
Glenn's had an up and down season. He was lights out last week, but the Toronto Argonauts defense is not a sieve like the Red Blacks. So
I think we're both on the same page. We're going Toronto and Edmonton Grey Cup. That's what we're picking?
Absolutely, yep.
All right.
So if it's Riders versus Calgary, we have zero credibility.
Zero credibility.
Zero. Yeah.
So that is our show this week then, folks. So I tell you what, here's what we're going to do. There's still a good chance that our special guest, Rory Kelly, may call in. Mm-hmm. So if Rory Kelly does end up calling in to us, what we'll do is we'll put that out as a First Down Sports exclusive interview.
Sure.
And we'll put that up on the Facebook page, the Twitter page, and for anybody that is fans of our Facebook page, you'll get to see that interview. It won't be long. It'll be about he doesn't have a lot of time, maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it'll be a real exclusive. You've heard from the official Inside the Lines. Now you get to talk to one of the stars that played in that game. And I'm telling you, if you haven't had a chance to watch that game, AUSTV.ca. Go check it out. The link is there. It was a phenomenal football game.
It's a fun game.
Yeah.
All
right, guys. That is the show for this week. Enjoy your CFL Western and Eastern Conference Final. Andy, anything you want to say?
I just want to say, when you go enjoy those things, do it with a Moose Light in one hand, some buffalo sauce in the other hand, and make sure there's a logo on your shirt.
There you go.
Doyle's Rule.
Love it.
There's our sponsors.
Yes.
That was quick and easy.
See, that's efficiency.
He just took the words out of my mouth.
There you go. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Later.
She's drinking pesticide. She's up and gone again. It's not a boyfriend. They're not the kissing kind. They're just some friends of mine. I know that you've been watching him. You make a comeback every time you want to say that. I think she might know, but she never told me so. She called